Hey everyone, it's Clint. I'm going to do this video a little backward from what I normally do. I'm not going to talk about my own books until the end, and that's actually because there might be a little bit of a point to that. So let me get to this first. Greg Capullo posted this on Twitter. He said, doing creator-owned comics has allowed me to bring some balance back into my life. I'm back in the gym and playing a bit of guitar again. It doesn't feel bad. He's got time for other things besides drawing constantly in order to keep up with deadlines and the endless demand for more Batman or Batman related books. So good for Greg Capullo. That's pretty great. Now, if you know much about Greg Capullo, he, like many other artists, did not start working for Marvel and DC. I'm I'm not 100% positive what his first thing is, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was him working on Spawn. I think he got discovered by Todd McFarlane and he started working on Spawn, and that's sort of his foot into the industry. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm too lazy to look it up, so sorry about that. But the point is, he went to mainstream comics. He had an impressive run there on a lot of things. He's a fantastic artist, and yet he's moving back out of mainstream comics. He wants to be doing less mainstream comics so he can do creator owned stuff and have a life again. This is a pattern that we see over and over again. Why is it? Why is it? Well, I think that mainstream comics are not what they've been cracked up to be. I don't think they're as great as everyone would have you believe, that this is the end all be all. It actually gives them a ton of power. The more comic book creators that believe that, believe that that's the only way, and that really is success. Like, you're not a professional unless you've actually worked at Marvel or DC. And it's no mistake that creators that have worked for Marvel and DC that then have gone on to do crowdfunding tend to do better, I think, on average. And that's because it gives them some credibility. So many people believe that it's massively important. But what I wanted to take an angle on here is a little bit different from what I think I've heard before. And that is that I think it's possible that more creators aren't coming out and saying that working for Marvel and DC is not what it's cracked up to be. It's not the bee's knees because of the culture war. Isn't it interesting that, if you speak out against Marvel Comics or DC because you don't like how they're running business, that you get labeled immediately as Comicsgate, as a bigot, as a racist? Is that a mistake? Let's also think back to when Eric Stevenson of Image Comics used to come out, I think yearly at least, when they did their big image event once a year. I think it was like every August or September or something. He would come out and he would rip apart Marvel and DC for their variant cover tactics, predatory tactics, and also their endless crossover events that just never ended, and you were required to buy a ridiculous amount of comics to understand what was going on, and they're confusing, and they were constantly happening. He used to eviscerate Marvel and DC over those things, and then one day he stopped. I don't think this was a mistake. It's amazing how frequently big corporations can convince fans and creators to defend them. When you think about it, it's insane. These companies use the culture war as a way to shame people who disagree with them. What? It's amazing. And don't get me wrong, I'm not anti-corporation or anything. I'm like pro-business, but I feel like you'd have to have your head in the sand not to see that this is a way to compete with other creators. It's a way to make sure that Marvel stays at the top by refusing to let other creators branch out and do anything else. Is it an accident that now there are no superstar artists? I mean, there's probably a few out there. Greg Capullo is probably as close as you can possibly get today. But what happened to like Mark Silvestri or Rob Liefeld or Jim Lee? We could go through the image artists that all left Marvel to start a new company to compete with the mainstream. They don't want that to happen again. So if you complain, they will label you as a bigot. How does that work? I don't know. But I mean, lay out all the facts. That's what happens. So even though many creators, I would argue, I would bet that most creators working for Marvel and DC have a dream of one day leaving and doing their own creator own thing so that they can have a life, so that they can spend some time with their family and take care of their health. They have a dream to do that, but they can't. There's not a foreseeable way out because they're bogged down with so much work that they don't have enough time to try something new. They've got to keep working. They have to keep, feeding their family by feeding these companies before they can do their own thing. Why is it that the culture war coincided with this? Why is it? It's very rare now for me to see a mainstream comic book creator that comes out and says, I mean, this is about as blatant as they can be. Saying doing creator-owned comics has allowed me to bring some balance back into my life. What he's not saying is that he didn't have balance in his life working for DC because he was under the gun constantly, even though Greg Capullo was probably selling. I mean, he had to be worth his weight in gold working for DC to them. I mean, they know that, I'm sure. But he didn't have balance in his life. He wasn't at the gym, because now he says he's back in the gym. He wasn't playing guitar enough, and it doesn't feel bad. Maybe it didn't feel great. I mean, that's the most that you can infer from this, and it's not strong language. I'm sure that he'll do more stuff for DC in the future. I haven't seen him say he's leaving at all for good, but doing creator-owned stuff is freedom. Okay, so whoever you are, you should be able to criticize these big companies. All right, so now for the Downcast update. Thanks for sitting through this. So I've settled on a launch date for Downcast Volume 3, and that's because the book's finished. There's at this point, it's like we're just sitting on the book for the sake of sitting on it. I want to ship Fatal yesterday. I want to ship Fatal months ago, but it's not finished. We ran into some unexpected circumstances. Charlie's had some family difficulties. He's still doing great work. He's still doing fantastic art, but this book is just going to take longer than we had expected. So I apologize for that. And the last thing I want to do is let anyone forget that this is a huge, massive priority, but at the moment it's on Charlie's plate. And so he's got a ton of work to do with it. So in the meantime, with me sitting on a finished book, it doesn't really make sense for me to just leave it here. It needs to be lettered, and it needs to be put into a print file and sent to the printer. That's it. So I actually do need money to pay Eric. I need lettering funds. I need funds to get this thing printed, and I need funds to obviously get it shipped then. But other than that, the book is finished. So I appreciate all of you that supported me, and I've got to tell you, this is me finally coming to the realization that I'm a part of indie comics. No matter what indie comics thinks of me, no matter what the comic book industry thinks of me, I am one of the relative few people out there who can do a creator-owned ongoing series. And that really is a special thing. And I have to really think about how special that is. Most people can't do that. With the publishing contract with Alterna Comics, it ensures that people will continue to be able to get pulled into the series when they might not otherwise get pulled into it. And my goal on this campaign is to give you more for your money. So that means the main story in here is longer than it has been in the other books. This is actually going to be what amounts to 3 issues of Alterna that would be coming out through Alterna. So the story will be a bit longer, and I'm more invested into making this story how I wanted it to be right from the beginning. So I'm able to introduce some concepts and some characters that I've been wanting to do and was honestly afraid to do before because I didn't know how many pages I'd be allowed to do to make the story. So with you all willing, with you all supporting it, um, I get to continue this and make an ongoing series. It's hugely important. And I'll tell you, if we get overfunded in a strong way, then I can produce more comics. The next really important thing for me is to do Dracula because so many people are asking about it. I've been working on the story, and I do need some funding because I'd rather do creator owned books like this. I'd rather be able to fund it up front so that way nobody's really waiting for it, and then it's finished, and then I can take it to crowdfunding and get it produced and put out there. But all of the actual art production and the creative production process, having it finished ahead of time without the pressure of looming deadlines and backers asking questions, I just think this is the future for me anyway. So that's the goal. So the launch date is going to be June 1st. It's a Tuesday. I started the Tuesday thing. A lot of people do Tuesday launch days now, which is great. I love it. So that just happens to work out for me and my family. And I need to just polish up the campaign. But we're going to make some extras available that I think people will want. I'm going to make my novel available with a brand new cover that we created just for this campaign. All for Owen. That's a sizable novel, not a graphic novel. It's prose and it's earlier writing. So you can see a little bit of my progress there, but I think it's good enough to put out there. So, and that'll be, I think, pretty affordable for people and a nice way for people to add it on. So if you want to back it Downcast, help me to make it here at Independent Comics. This is the way to do it. I realize I said independent really strange there. So yeah, forgive me. Anyway, I know I'm rambling. Thank you all for watching. Appreciate you. Let me know what you think about Greg Capullo in the comment section below. And we'll see you in the next video and for sure on June 1st for the launch of Downcast Volume 3. Thanks. Bye.